Decided to.
Oh, no.
Okay. So, hello, everybody. It's good to see you all again. I know our last meeting was a little bit long because there was a lot of space planning stuff, and I understand that you all think one of my important priorities is to make sure we can get this done by 9 o'clock efficiently. So I'll get in the hang of this, and we'll try and make that happen. Why don't I just read the call to order for a hybrid meeting? This is the June 13th. Hold on, I want to make sure I got the right one. Yep, June 13th, 2023 open public meeting of the Needham Library Board of Trustees, being held via hybrid format, allowing remote attendance. Roll call first. I'll take a roll call to confirm that trustees and library staff and any other people anticipated to be on the agenda are present and can hear me. I'll start first with the trustees. Anna Geraldo Kerr.
Here.
Robert Pettit.
Here.
Kay Cahill.
Here.
Erhard Grafe.
Here.
Michael O'Neill.
Here.
Megan Small.
Here.
Me, Jay Fialka. We're all here. I'll do library staff. Director Kim Hewitt.
Here.
Assistant Director Dimitri Kyriakis.
Here.
Technology Specialist Danielle Tawa.
Here.
Program Specialist Gay Ellen Dennett. She's not here. She was here. Okay, fine. Recording Secretary is Faith here, or Jenna White. You're right there. Okay, good. Okay. And Jenna White is here. Representing the Library Foundation of Needham, Joan Smith. Thank you. Letting everybody know this meeting is being recorded. If there's a problem that prevents the completion of this meeting, we will reconvene at 7:00 p.m. on July 11th, 2023. And now I'd like to just call this meeting of the Needham Board of Library Trustees to order at 7:06 p.m. And perhaps first, just ask, does anyone have any from the public who's not a party to this, have any comments that you want to offer, or are you just here to observe? Okay, okay, because we're happy to give the public an opportunity to share their comments. Minutes, I'd like to request a motion to approve the minutes of the May 9th, 2023 meeting, and maybe after the motion, we can discuss if there are any questions. So I have a motion.
So moved.
Anyone second the motion?
Second.
Thank you. Does anybody have any comments or corrections or relating to those minutes, or should we just move to get them approved?
I have one amendment, a change.
Please, yes.
On page 9 of the minutes, under item 10, McIver series, Rob's last name is misspelled.
Oh, thank you. I've gotten used to it. One T and then two.
Any other comments?
Yes. On the same paragraph, I think that first sentence should be just taken out. That was more like a commentary.
And then there's just a couple hard brackets on page 3.
Yeah.
Page 3. That's 3 on my right then.
Brackets on the fifth sentence.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. Any other comments? So can I ask for a motion that with these changes that the minutes be approved
So moved.
and seconded?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? That motion is passed. We're on a roll. Let's go to the director's report, please.
Sure.
Kim.
Okay, so we've been working on a new phonics section in the Easy Reader collection, which was really spearheaded by Veronica in the children's department, and she worked really hard with the tech services department as well. Mimi Aziz did a lot of the reprocessing and recataloging. for about 270 titles at this point. So that's a collection we'll be kind of building out separately, so it's easier for parents to find that material. Jenna White has been working to keep track of closing and amending purchase orders as needed, so that we can kind of facilitate a clean fiscal close, which has obviously been really instrumental in making that happen. So thank you. Manny LeCount has also been working hard on that effort to call vendors to check the status of different items that we've previously ordered, and maybe they're on back order now or not going to make it to us by June 30th. So we have to kind of like deal with those things, cancel them, you know, all of that kind of stuff. So she's doing all of that maintenance, which is, you know, highly necessary to be happening right now. The selectors have, you know, really made great efforts to expend their municipal budgets for the materials in their areas of collection to close that out as well. And about 53% of the nonfiction collection has now been updated with the new spine labels. As of the end of May, they've been making even more progress since that number. So thank you to all those volunteers helping with that project. Mimi recatalogued over 200 graphic novels that had previously been kind of just in the general adult collection to allow for adult graphic novels, YA graphic novels, and juvenile graphic novels. So the Y and J are YA and juvenile. And Kim Regan led the setup for the DEI audit. So she created some spreadsheets and a tracking system to organize all of the items according to the DEI topic that the audit assigned to these items. There were about just under 25,000 items identified as, you know, hitting some category. And so we're working through those things now and adding some things on the back end so that when we're doing, you know, collection development involving weeding or anything like that, we can sort of see and give special priority to those items to retain them. And it helps us identify, you know, where maybe we have gaps and things like that. So we're not anywhere near done with that process, but it's exciting to have some of this going. Danielle Tawa set up several new computers for the public, an extra computer for tech services, and a new self-check on the second floor, which had died, and she got it back up within a day, which was really great because people have been heavily using our self-checks, of course. Sarah Breen got some nice appreciation from some patrons in regards to her help with proctoring some tests. Let's see, Erin Bassett has been.
Is that
working-
like for the high school, like kept with the school where to proctor?
Typically, it's a separate, it's for something separate, but I'm not sure of the details. Let's see. Erin Bassett was working hard to relocate all the YA audiobooks so that they're outside of the YA room, which is making room for some other collections kind of in that wooden stand that is in the Glasston teen area. So all the YA books are all the YA audiobooks are outside of the room with all the other teen materials. That's actually now complete. And Lucia Dolan and Paula Dugan have arranged for a robotics program for children this summer. These sessions are going to help children learn programming. They'll learn robotics concepts, which, you know, I think is a lot of programming that we want to be doing now to help build job skills and things for the future. Veronica created a document for the staff on some differences in searching between Overdrive in a browser on a computer and the Libby app, because Overdrive has kind of sunset the app of Overdrive. So now you would just use Libby on your different devices. So it was super helpful because they didn't really give a lot of great publicity about it. Children's staff has been dealing with an increase in patronage. They've been doing regular programming, conducting library visits, and they've been working really hard on the summer reading preparations, and they've been short a full-timer. And so I really wanted to call attention to that and thank them for their efforts. Everyone's really pitched in, and Paul and I are very, very grateful for their efforts to keep things going. Boston Globe ran a promotion for one of our programs, which is called Monkey Mind Belly Breath Yoga, which is for youth. That was a really nice little promo. Paula was able to receive the school summer reading program list ahead of time and able to order the books and get them ready to go in advance. This isn't always something we can control, but it's really wonderful when it works out this way so that we are ready when people start coming in to get those items. Great. Yeah. Veronica led a visit to the children's room by the Girl Scouts, and they had about 25 children and adults. And she kind of highlighted the STEAM center and different robots. So that was kind of a nice little promo opportunity as well. And I conducted storytime visit and tour for Temple Beth Shalom Preschool. Gina Favada applied for and received 2 free passes to Treetop Adventures, as well as a 4-pack of day passes for Rock Spot for summer reading prizes. People have been working really hard on these prizes, and they're always kind of fun and exciting.
Good.
Yeah, Paula applied for and received a $100 gift from the Dedham Savings Bank
Nice.
to purchase a Kindle Fire as one of the prizes as well.
Wow.
Yes, so that was excellent as well. And then their other prizes are going to be things like cookies and ice cream tokens from Cookie Monster and vouchers from the USS Constitution, which may not sound that exciting, but actually is very fun to visit for children. So those are really great prizes. Jenna, Paul, and I toured the sensory room at the Joseph P. Tynan Elementary School in South Boston. We were joined by 2 members of the Needham Rotary Club and a teacher from the school. And this visit was in preparation for potentially having a sensory room here. And the Rotary Club has expressed, a great interest in helping fund the things that we might purchase. So you can see 2 pictures of some of the stations that they have, different sensory type items. There was also like a bubble machine. There were some tactile mats that people use, some kind of quiet space seating things. It was a very nice visit and good to make the connection to find out sort of what works and what hadn't worked out so well that they had tried.
Bubbles are always a sure bet.
Yeah.
Bubbles
Really,
work.
yeah.
Experience.
It's very true. Yes, so let's see. So Paul and Sarah have set up the summer reading challenges in Beanstack, which is our online system for tracking your summer reading. So there's an adult summer reading program as well as the children's, and also a YA one as well. So you can't log anything until June 15th, but you can start signing up, and the program continues through August 31st. And as you've heard, we have a lot of great prizes, so spread the word. Nancy Teich was really helpful with the patron and downloading and using the Minuteman app, and the patron contacted us to give her thanks, so we wanted to call that out as well. And Ran and myself participated in an interview with the Needham channel about our Library of Things collection. It aired recently, and
Nice.
thank you. And it's on YouTube as well, so you can click it from the link in the packet that I've sent.
Okay.
Yes, Kay.
I just wanted to, before you leap on to other things,
Oh, sure.
that list of all the things that the staff are working on really reminds me that to say a big and loud thank you to how much we appreciate the staff and all that they do, both their creative thinking, but also their nuts and bolts technical work that they do to just keep the programs, keep the circulation running every day. And I think sometimes that gets lost in the shuffle that we, the trustees, think the staff are wonderful and want them to know that.
Thank you, Kay. I'm sure we all echo those thoughts. For me, sometimes it's easy to get that feeling when I do come to the library and I literally walk around the entire library and see all the great things that the library is doing and all the wonderful ways that people are using the library in different ways. It's a way to reinforce our appreciation, great appreciation for you and the staff.
Thank you. Thank you.
Um,
Oh, go ahead.
One question.
Yes, Hannah.
Thank you. The summer reading challenge, remind me, that is for Needham residents, right? Because there are schools, they usually ask, or could kids or adults from other town signs is now it's online. I don't remember.
I think it's probably geared towards Needham, but
Right, that's what
I'm
I
I know in
sure-
particular that
yeah.
Paula reaches out to the Metco students
Yeah.
and is working to make it easy for
because
them.
they're
Uh-huh.
part of that. Okay, so that is a connection.
Yeah.
But mostly the Needham. Got it. Okay, because it's been
Yes.
a while, but I love the prices. of
yeah, and
things.
it's, there,
And that's important that she does that. That's good.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. That's
there was
great.
an adult a while ago that was participating in different summer reading challenges from California and winning all the prizes for like Massachusetts libraries. So I'm not sure. if there's ever been
She used
more.
the same list of books for all the different competitions.
But yes, it was.
Megan?
Okay.
So,
Are we conflicted in participating from this, or are family members not allowed to win prizes like the disclaimers on?
Oh,
things
like being a trustee? No, you
Yeah.
can participate. I think Jenna's participated and won a
Every
prize.
year.
Every year.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, don't worry about the conflict. It's entirely
Yeah.
fake.
It's not about it. Just getting
No,
excited.
that's
I
totally
know
fine.
my sons can
Yeah.
participate in too.
Yeah.
and I'm
Yeah.
like, okay,
We
I'll
want
win
everyone to be
anything.
reading. So
Okay.
it's, yeah. So the Library Foundation recently approved 2 out of 3 of our grant proposals. So programming for children and adults will be funded throughout the year. And, I wanted to take a moment to note that Sam Stern, a founder of the Friends of the Needham Library, had passed away on May 28th. And he volunteered right up until the end, and he'll be greatly missed. And I hope some of you were able to make his services. So that is, let's see, that wraps up that portion of the report. Were there any other questions or comments on that portion?
That's just a lot of updates for 1 month.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yes,
Yes.
yeah. We get really busy in the summer when I think a lot of other departments get quieter. Maybe it's like us and Rosemary. Get really busy in the summer and everyone else is like, we could leave at 12 on Fridays.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, so it's a lot.
But they didn't have enough time to do 25,000 items. They had a,
Yeah. So for personnel, so Paula Dugan is working from home through the summer. And Sarah Breen is going to have her last day on June 30th. She's
Wow.
taking on the role of assistant director in Groton, which is really
Oh.
exciting for her. That's an interest she had expressed a long time ago. And
When did
we
you say
kind
is her last day?
June 30th.
Ah,
So we'll be having, she wants a little tiny thing, like a little tiny party with staff.
She's
But-
been here about 6 years. is
Yeah,
that correct?
yeah.
well,
So
I
we'll miss
hope
her.
you'll share with her all of our great appreciation for the
Yeah.
wonderful work
Mhm.
that she's done. Will be missed, but we're
Absolutely.
happy for her
Yes,
about this opportunity.
Kim, can you let me know what the titles were for Paula and Sarah?
oh, sorry, Paula Dugan is the children's supervisor and Sarah Breen is the reference supervisor. Yes, so we're excited for her. And Dimitri and I have been investigating the use of bibliotemps to fill in gaps for coverage in these departments for the summer, because as mentioned, summer is very busy for us. And so there is a vote that I will be requesting later to fund that effort. But I really also want to just take a second to thank all of the part-timers who have really stepped up to fill in and work as many hours as they're kind of allowed to work to fill in the gaps currently.
Thank you to part-time.
Yes, they really are saving us. Okay, so then we have the gift list, which is listed here. And hopefully you've had a chance to review previously, so I guess we,
Do we have a motion to approve the gift list?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
I don't know who.
you know.
Okay, it was just 1 second faster.
Michael?
I'm not gonna mess with Kate.
Okay. And just all in favor of accepting the gift list, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? It's unanimously approved. Move on to the next agenda item.
Sure, so that's buildings and grounds. We've changed out the paper towel dispensers throughout the building. The irrigation company came and fixed the building sprinkler system. And they're working on the waxing of the floors in the 3rd floor offices. And Parks and Forestry was here to work on landscaping around the library, and they'll continue to be coming back to trim some of the trees on the Rosemary Street parking lot. The chiller is running. Yesterday had an issue, but they were here today. And I suspect it will be potentially an ongoing fix. And the custodians worked very hard on the setup and the breakdown of the Friends book sale.
Mhm.
So they were working really hard on that.
Mhm.
We are waiting on the installation of a part for the elevator, which has been out now for almost 2 months. Not exactly 2 months, I'm exaggerating, but it has been a while and it's truly been felt. So we've been really on top of the buildings department, but it's a special order item and it's expected to be here to 2 days from now, and then installed. So
Good.
hoping it actually arrives then, because it's been a long time.
Okay.
Yes, Kate?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, is there any, for these things that are rather significant, like the elevator and
Yeah.
chiller, if there's anything that you think the trustees can do to whatever, make a little noise or move things along, please, call out.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I appreciate it because I think at times that would be necessary. Right now in particular, they're very, very on top of it and very aware of the
But
issue.
that's the good point. You let
Yes.
us know.
Yes, exactly. And I have to thank our head custodian, Angel, who has really advocated for this and, kept it, made sure it stayed on my radar to get in touch with the people, like my colleagues, to make sure that they are on top of it.
Well, it's an accessibility issue among,
It is.
that's really important.
So we've been
Almost as high a
allowing-
priority as we could have.
Right, so we've been having people use the staff elevator too when they need to, but that's a mile down the wing. So it's not great. But yeah, hoping it's done by the end of the week.
Yep.
So,
Is that predicated on bids? Does the elevator repair? have to
no,
go to
it's
bid?
actually because our elevator is just so special that there is a part that is not readily available. And so it's a special, they have to actually make the part. It's like the special order thing.
Okay.
So
Got
this
it.
is one of the fun things about being one of the first like Leeds buildings that the town
Mhm,
built.
mhm.
Okay.
So it's just one of those
Got
things. Yeah. Okay, so onto the financial
Yeah.
report. So we're doing well spending down, and actually the budget and expenditure document that you have, that was printed as of June 2nd. And since then, we've spent down a lot of money. So we are, I think under $1,000 away from spending out the expenses. Jenna can.
It's gonna be really close, like my
Yeah.
goal is to get it
Uh-huh.
under 1,000.
Oh,
Yes,
But
so
it's
we
been,
are,
it's been a wild ride, and this is assumed we're playing chicken with some things that we placed the order and.
will they erect? Yeah.
And this is where tech services is doing a lot of work, like really monitoring that to make sure that things can come in, we have the money to pay for them, and all that stuff.
Yeah, so we are,
That's great.
really, yeah, I mean, and it's a pretty drastic difference even from what you're seeing here.
Because
we've
here
just been
reflects
spending it down.
14%, right? 14.5%.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're down more like 5.
There's about a 3-week delay.
Yeah.
From when I'm able to create this report
Yeah.
to the trustees meeting.
Yeah. So we're doing well there with fiscal spend down. State aid is the normal kind of spending. There were some reimbursements for staff day. The trust funds, again, similar things. Yeah, so it's all in that report.
I had one question.
Sure.
Gerhard?
I'm thinking prospectively instead of retrospectively here, because as we're looking at this bibliotex
Mhm.
proposal, does that, that'll affect next fiscal year's budget? Or
For
is
the,
it-
for
or is it-
state aid.
Yeah, or is it affecting, like, how are we thinking about that in terms of like, and does it fall under some sort of like special purchase as opposed to a salary cost? I'm
So
curious.
it's a
about how those-
salary, yeah, well, it's a service thing, so we would have a prorated, like if they're gonna start before the end of the fiscal year, we would we would be spending some of that money now and then have them contract for the,
Okay.
you know, it would be like 2 separate bills.
Okay,
Yeah, on trust funds, I just have one question and also just one statement, especially for our new people who have never experienced the trust funds before. Other people can probably explain this better than I do, but each trust fund has its own rules as to what we can spend and what percentage of the income earned can be spent. Somebody else will probably tell you, but so they're often, so if you see in the column on interest of amount available to be spent, reflects that, those rules for each trust fund when it's money that's bestowed to the town. And I just had one question on the
So
why.
we're,
Go ahead.
We're just on the regular trust fund report at the moment, and that is the planned spending document, which we will be discussing later. So I don't know if you
Okay.
want to hold,
I didn't realize that. Yeah, okay.
because yes, that's
I didn't know
important
we had
information,
to-
but might be confusing at the moment.
thank you.
So we're on.
So which one are we doing?
Just the
Oh,
regular
yeah, I see,
report.
there's, that was
The
one
boring one.
annual.
Okay, that
We're
one
in
is the more
June,
columns.
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, not the spending for next year.
okay, got it.
Yes, so you'll see like the encumbered funds have, you know, we've kind of closed out most of them based on the votes that were taken last year. And some of them always kind of retain a balance in that encumbrance field because we get donations for the permanent donation fund consistently throughout the year, that kind of thing. Yeah, and we can get more into depth on the trust fund plan spending when we get to that. Okay. Yeah. Yes.
And I haven't been around since we did this
Sure.
report. I started right after we've gone through these end of year trust funds. So I'm curious about the funds expendable column at the end that
Yes.
shows basically
That might be.
we're in the negative
Yeah, it's
on most of the
because-
funds.
Yes,
Yeah.
so most of the funds, they had some interest earned, but they also had so many losses
Yeah.
that the losses outweighed the, yeah. So it's a much different picture than we would normally see
Okay.
because the stock market was pretty bad this past year.
Yeah.
So that's why you see a lot of negatives.
So in other words, those
And
funds
some-
don't have funds that are currently
Expendable.
expendable.
Yes,
Until
there,
they
you
get to
can
the
see the
positive.
balance in the fund
in the
is
future.
there, like money's there, but it's not an expendable.
If only we could just make a motion that those become positives next year.
So these don't, a follow-on question to what Rob just said. So then these don't zero out, we wait for them to recover?
Essentially,
It's a good question.
So,
yeah.
yeah, like we would not spend from a fund, right? You guys have a policy that says we can spend 10% of the interest earned. But if the interest earned is outweighed by the loss, then we actually don't have money.
Yeah.
We wouldn't spend money. from
All
the
right, so we'll
fund,
factor that into our planning for next year then.
Which is, yes,
Yeah,
it
okay,
is factored into
Got
ours.
it.
Yeah.
thank you.
Makes sense.
Yeah, so you'll see like, you know, typically we would see spending from like the Carly Fund for children's books. Usually it's only like $300 or something, but that's not on the planned spending document this year because, yeah, we don't have the money for it.
Yeah, okay.
So we kind of changed where we were pulling things from a little bit in the planned spending document, but we can, again, go further into depth on that.
Thank you.
That's not considered co-mingling funds, is it?
What do you mean?
Just like
Most of them don't have an
a
actual.
lot of weight.
There's only one account that.
No, there are all these different trust funds and some of them have stipulations on what they can be spent upon, but
Okay.
many of them don't. So for
Okay.
things where they don't,
Got
we
it.
could kind of make up the balance that we might typically see for like children's book spending out of one fund that didn't do well this year.
Mhm.
We could place it into a different fund to spend out.
Right.
So we were fortunate to not be totally, you know,
Right.
obliterated by stock market this year. Okay, so the statistical report. Circulation was up almost 5% from March 2023 and also higher than 22. However, less people were entering the building overall. We saw more tech questions, but less general reference questions, which is just kind of interesting and I don't really have a reason for. Library programming numbers were down in the adult area, but YA program numbers increased, like the amount of programs increased. as did the attendance, and children's programming was up, but attendance was down. I think some of it is that children's has kind of been in flux for a little bit. The situation with Paula has been ongoing prior to her kind of working from home in the summer, so I think, I don't know. Not sure exactly what happens. But it's not a trend, and so we're in good shape.
So good. I'm sorry.
Okay,
So I'm just having a little hard time following. When you say attendance was down, when I'm looking, and children's, am I looking at the wrong place? Library programs, child attendance looks higher
Is it
in
maybe, is it the
2023
month
than,
to month perhaps?
Yeah, year on year is higher,
Sorry.
but month to month. is
So-
lower.
Yeah, it's not.
that's, okay, this is month to month that's down, not year
Yes,
over year.
yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I find it helpful to kind of see a trend if we're looking at the month to month as well. But yes,
Yes.
it was up from last year, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Any other questions on?
okay, we are on to new business. Something for you to talk about, state aid?
Yeah. Video.
Okay.
Okay, so for state aid, I wanted to, do you want to cover bibliotemps? And to do that out of state aid, then the fiscal year situation kind of doesn't matter quite as much. And my recommendation would be to remove the spending for the library security cameras and to then encumber it for bibliotemps coverage for the summer, because we're not going to be spending on security cameras anytime soon. And we do really need this coverage to happen. And that would cover, we think, about 20 hours in each department a week through the end of August.
And what would become of the plan for the security cameras just placed on hold for this, until the space planning
Yes,
effort
and
goes
it's-
further along?
And it's a point of contention with FinCom that it's been there for a couple of years, so I think it makes sense to just take it off for now and switch
Okay.
it, and move that money to an encumbrance for this. So I think,
Are we concerned about security in the meantime?
no, it's the addition of like a couple cameras in various places, but we have a lot of cameras, so.
In the
Okay.
future, if there is, like, once we sort out the space planning study, we can always re-encumber
Totally,
if we need to.
Yes.
And if,
yes.
yeah,
It's not gone forever.
Yeah.
It's just gone for the moment.
We found a more urgent need.
Yes, definitely, which is the benefit of these accounts, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if we need to vote to unencumber the funds and then encumber them.
Should we have one vote to unencumber and encumber? Seems to me
I would
we
I
can
would
be able
think
to
so.
describe what we're
Yeah.
doing.
Yeah.
Everybody understand? Somebody want to make a motion, please? It's a complicated one because it involves both encumbering and unencumbering. Rob?
There's a volunteer.
put some thought into this. So I move that we unencumber $25,000 for library security cameras. And we encumber $20,000 for bibliotemps coverage.
Fantastic.
Or state
Thank-
aid. Sure, it's
Out of state aid.
Out of state aid. Great. Thanks. Anyone want to second that motion? Thank, who did?
Megan.
Megan, great. And we'll take a vote. All in favor, say aye, please. Aye. And anybody opposed? So happy to pass that unanimously.
Thank you very much. We've got the paperwork like ready to go. So typically they say it takes about 2 weeks to place someone, so we'll see.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
Yes,
Question on the, I thought there was discussion, but maybe I missed it. So you said 20 hours per department, so there's 2 positions that bibliotemps will cover, right? So, and for what period? Starting now?
Starting as soon as they can start until
Through
the end of
August, the end of
Yeah, so we were counting from like 2 weeks from last week, I guess.
Okay,
a week from now.
And the other question, there's a $5,000 difference between the
Yes.
camera. So where's that?
We have the July plan spending coming up,
Uh-huh.
where we would be looking at the fiscal year 24 plan spending.
Okay.
So it
It will
essentially
be
doesn't matter
there.
for now. It's
Okay,
just not
got
encumbered.
it.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. I figured that, but
Yes.
Because our
So,
state aid funds
Good
roll over.
But I'm like, wait
Yeah.
a minute.
And presumably for the, for Sarah's position, hopefully we'd be able to fill that by the end of the summer.
yes, it's actually posted and we already have.
Yeah.
Applicants.
Oh,
So,
wow.
That's great.
yes.
And Sarah, to mention, will be around over the next couple of weeks, I think, for people to please say hello to her personally.
Yes.
Oh, God.
Yes.
Yeah, she will
Good
be.
idea.
Yes, so we're, HR was really great about getting it out like immediately. So,
That's great.
yes,
Good.
very happy to have that already out.
The next item is regard to the trust fund
Yes.
plan spending.
So that is the one that has,
I was holding up.
yeah, it's called Trust Funds Fiscal Year 23 Plan Spent Expense Request. So typically, we would be seeing this in like November or December. However, the town had turnover this year with the position that handles the trust funds and only recently filled it. And then we had to sort out some of the trust funds with that person and the bank and make sure we were all on the same page. So it took a little while, but this spending, we typically do not actually spend within the fiscal year. Because it comes to us in usually November or December, we sort of do it from that, but we refer to it as the fiscal year in which it's voted upon.
Mhm.
So this money would get us through like November, like we'd be expending this by November. Because we like to zero it out so that when we plan to spend, or when we do the next plan spending document, it'd be starting from what the funds actually are. So for this, we are looking to spend a good amount on collections, additional spending on collections, continuing some training, some professional development opportunities. We wanted to kind of get some book stands. We are consistently out of them and we want to have more displays and nicer looking displays. And so that's some of that funding.
Only 600?
Yes.
Mm.
Yeah. So we've priced them out or, looking at the things that we want to. Sorry, let me clarify. The book stands in that line for the displays. Those are like little easel things that the
Oh,
books
okay.
sit upon, not an actual furniture
Yeah,
structure.
okay.
Sorry, that's the,
Okay.
I was like, why?
There's this-
Yeah,
It's less than
600 is a
one
lot. Like, it's like, it's a lot of stands. And then we had some funds that did well enough to spend from, that we don't typically spend from. One of them is the Nutter Fund, and that is for nonfiction history materials specifically. So we're just adding to the nonfiction budget. The other one is the Bosworth Fund, which is for Wyeth room efforts and Bosworth room efforts. And since we are still in the process of working with the conservation person that Colleen Fesco recommended, he was away, I guess, for a couple months, like somewhere nice, which is wonderful. But we were not able to get in touch until very recently. And so
Okay.
we're asking to put the money that is available to spend in that account towards that. We don't know what his cost will be. However, it just makes it less out of somewhere else, which would be
Right, to
helpful.
have some. reserve.
Yes, and then, we want to get some more sign holders. We're constantly, they break, they're acrylic, like they're just not looking great sometimes. So that'll get a couple more. We want to get some wayfinder signage for the end caps throughout the adult collection. They're fairly old and worn, and we'd like to replace them. So we're looking at that. Conference attendance, workshops, staff development, that kind of thing is on there. The book display stands themselves are furniture structures that we were looking at to replace the octagon thing that's out there, and to replace the display, the very old wooden book display that is next to where we have the Library of Things displays. We have 3 of those shelves there, and we would keep the 2 with the Library of Things displays stuff on it, but then have a nicer, different looking structure that's a little more appealing. And we'd like to get a display on the second floor, because we don't have one there currently. And then we wanted to spend money for children's materials, young adults, lots of spending for ELL in 2 different funds, world languages, video games, large print, adult fiction, just kind of beefing up the collections budget that we get from the operating budget. So it's a pretty standard list, but
Questions, Anna?
Did I hear that this money needs to be spent by this year, right, November of this year?
yes.
So maybe there's a typo here that the hatch funds and New Year's meetup programs for December 2024, or are we planning ahead?
They always, with that one historically, it's been planned ahead.
Oh,
So I'm not clear on why that is. I think
No,
because sometimes we might not get to the approval in or before December and they plan ahead of time. And we
okay.
just can't count on when we get the report of interest. So I think it like,
It's just
is
ahead.
because of
Okay,
that.
okay. I guess
and then
that's-
also,
But it shouldn't be December 2023.
No, she said.
no, it's
Okay.
for 24 because
Got it.
23 was on last year's.
Okay.
Because it's planning ahead.
Planning ahead.
Because we might get the interest numbers in November after the meeting for the trustees and then miss the opportunity to say yes to funding them. So we do it a year
Okay,
ahead.
So just on the, once again, on New Year's, Needham.
Yep.
That's been canceled for the last few years. Have you heard anything about that starting up again? No.
Not a thing.
So this is a, just in
No.
case it comes.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, and a lot of things are returning or we saw return last year. And so I'm not sure what the efforts will be, but I want to make sure that if
Right.
we have it. Yeah,
I wish. it
and I would
come
assume by
back.
next year that they hopefully have it going again. So.
I hope so.
And then just to note too, in the Tolman Fund, the trustees previously approved money for McIver and for Tom's retirement. So you see that as listed, it's not a negative, it's just that it's not counted in that $9,000 because it's previously approved.
And on MacGyver, only 1,500 was used.
Okay.
So there's 2,000.
So we kind of zero it out. Like we
Okay.
want to like start anew with the interest
Yeah.
that we have, yeah, and
Okay.
kind of keep it cleaner. Because that seemed to be a cause of confusion for everyone about how we were tracking like year to year, why we have these big balances that are
Mm.
expendable, and
Okay.
it's just cleaner to,
Just to make
easier
sure
now.
that you knew that it was not fully spent.
yeah, yes, thank you. So the total amount of spending from all of the trust funds is $34,100.
okay, yes, a motion to approve the trust fund plan spending. Okay,
I move that we vote to approve the planned expense request for the trust funds for fiscal year 2023.
thank you. Any seconds?
Second.
Okay, Anna, quick on the draw.
Gotta be in there.
We'll have a vote. All in favor of this motion, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion is unanimously passed.
Thank
Okay,
you.
that's
So excited
great.
to get this done.
Good.
We've been waiting for a long time on that one. Yeah.
Jay, can I ask a question? It's
Sure,
just,
okay.
Because we have guests today.
Yes.
We haven't for several months. Do the guests, I'm not sure about open meeting law. I did review the short version before I came. Do they have to sign in so that I have their names for the minutes, or we just say they were guests? I just
I've
don't- I
never
wanna-
been aware of in the past requiring people,
We haven't had, we
to
had somebody
sign
come
in.
on the phone, who were
know.
former trustees, and their names we knew, so.
Yeah, no, I don't think that's. a
No.
requirement.
Okay.
I
just
don't
wanna
think
make
we've
sure,
done it
'cause I
for
don't
people
wanna-
who've participated by Zoom,
We
so
don't have those.
probably just
Okay.
carry that
Just wanna
over
make
in
sure.
person.
Good
Thank
point
you.
there. Yeah.
Yeah,
Good
well,
question.
thanks.
sorry to interrupt the flow.
No, of course.
Good
Yeah,
question.
yeah, we're on a roll here.
one in the crowd.
Yeah, thanks.
If you want to introduce the conversation, I guess we have on the agenda to have a recap and discussion of the retreat experience. I know Kim sent an email to get people's feedback. I'm not sure if anybody has any thoughts they'd like to share in this public meeting relating to, that, or other than to say, I know for my part, I think it was valuable to be there. I think it's good to spend time together, even if we're not talking about library things, but it was even more, I think, valuable to spend time together to get some guidance as to how to think about the role of the trustees as advisory in some ways, how to think about the operational role of the library and how we're supposed to work together, all for one in a good way. And we've always tried to do that. And the retreat, I think, was designed to help us continue to try to do that and hopefully get better at it as we keep moving along. Any other comments? Okay. Yes, Rob?
I was going to say, I think the retreat was a very helpful step. I think that any institution should be constantly evaluating itself, evaluating its effectiveness, and evaluating its mission. So, I kind of see this as part of a process where, even if it's not formal, we should always be thinking about what our role is and how we can help further our goals under our bylaws.
Yes, thank you.
And to
Michael?
second that, that's a perfect segue. I think that it'd be really productive for us as a board of trustees with our chair to kind of find out what those parameters are. So, because the bylaws, there's so many different levels to that, and just trying to really be fundamentally sound, but also be in our lane, but also able to
Doing our job.
To assist Kim in the mission. And I think that would be something helpful, because I think what's important is that the inertia that we start, we're all moving the same way.
Yeah.
And I think what the retreat did do is qualified a lot of stuff, but it left a lot of questions.
Well,
and
some of it, it's hard to, I think,
Yes.
answer hypothetically. I think we need to be sensitive
Right.
to it and open to discussing it when it comes up, so that we're all clear and on the same page
Exactly.
about how to handle a matter.
Right.
But that's my thought about that.
No, and that's why I was saying it'd be a good idea with you as our chair, that we have an opportunity to discuss that. I guess maybe offline where.
Well, I'm not sure, this raises the open meeting law issues where
We can't win.
we're really, it was one of the more difficult adjustments for me, honestly, when I first,
Right.
and maybe everybody when they first joined the board, because usually you're in the habit of, you want to figure something out, you get everybody together and you talk, and
Right.
unfortunately, that's a constraining factor that we need to overcome. There is the possibility, I should mention, I think you said, Kim, that the woman's name who ran the retreat, Mary Beth, for the price we've already paid, is open to coming back. I think you said for some sort of follow-up.
Yes.
I think you said that.
Yes.
So we should be aware, keep track of things that we think might be worth attention, and at some point get the benefit of a follow-up meeting. I don't know that we have to do that soon, but we should, keep our eyes on that. Yeah, Rob?
One very quick follow-up. I know, Kay, you had something
I do
too.
have one.
But I work with a lot of corporate boards, and while they function differently than us, we're a very different role. One practice that is common is an annual self-evaluation, both of the individual and of the board. And I think there was kind of a preview of that with the retreat where the MBLC.
I think we even did that.
trustee manual.
We did that about, right? At the
Yeah, the
retreat,
report
wasn't
card.
there a self-evaluation
Yes.
and an evaluation?
Yeah, the
Exactly.
scorecard.
Yeah.
A score, really a scorecard type thing from the MBLC.
Mhm.
And that might be something that we consider putting on our kind of annual calendar in the future, that, hey, maybe at year end, we just all collectively spend 15 minutes filling that out, send it to whoever it is, chair, vice chair, point person, just so it's always in our minds about, okay, how is this working? How can we be more efficient?
Well, I don't know that you need to vote for that, but it sounds like it's a
Just a
suggestion.
thought.
Good
I
idea.
think it sounds like a positive suggestion. I'm not sure, we can look again to see what the questions were asked at the retreat, whether to use that as a guide for what we might want to answer. And perhaps we should, make a note to put that perhaps at one of towards our year-end meetings. I don't know that it needs to be an agenda item. I don't know, but we'll communicate a system. I think that's a good idea. I don't need a motion to approve that idea, I don't think.
No.
It would be up to you and Kim to determine when that should fall.
You could put it on an agenda
Okay,
at an appropriate.
good.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay,
So I did think it was a wonderful experience to get everybody together and have other town leaders there, and the discussions was fruitful and useful. I did feel like we had sort of Mary Beth in her list of trustee responsibilities. One stone left unturned, I guess I would say was the bylaws were never put up, which are a very important source of our mission. The trustees, the mission of the trustees is written out in the bylaws, which never came up at that meeting. So one option would be going forward, possibly to do a session of all of us, an open meeting session on bylaws and how we meet, what are, kind of try to set up something a little bit more clear about each of our duties in the bylaws and how we go about.
Well,
That might
I'm
be
not sure what meeting would be required. I think the first step obviously would be for all of us to reread the bylaws. We've all read them, but we can't quote them by heart right now, but we should refresh our memory to guide us. And then if perhaps clarification is useful after that, we can arrange for a conversation. Earhart?
And this could be another productive annual exercise, right? As we think about doing self-evaluation for the board, we can also imagine reviewing the bylaws and ensuring that they're still serving the interests of the library on an annual basis.
We probably haven't done that on a regular basis, not that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
And I think it's probably appropriate. Rob, do you recall if we've done something, or is it not a thorough review?
You're the longest tenured trustee, but I've never
I know.
heard of us doing that. I don't know if do we have authority?
This is when
though?
Tom Harkins would.
Yeah.
Who
would
adopts
offer
the
a
trustee
comment.
bylaws?
What?
This is by the town.
I
thought
think it's a
those-
whole
Yeah.
process.
Yeah, we would have to
Yeah.
propose, I think, something to
Yeah.
the town.
And I'm not talking about changing them. any of them.
I just happen to have the bylaws with me. I take them with me wherever I go.
So while you look, may I?
Please, yes,
Okay,
Anna.
thank you. So yeah, I'm echoing what some of the comments of my fellow trustees. I too would like to further explore what we started, because it definitely was it's a starting point what we did. And if anything, there's more to explore. So, and to me, the bylaws is one of the priorities I have in my head, because I'm trying to reconcile what the bylaws say about my role in particular, our role, and the expectations that were discussed at the board, at the retreat. I just want to make sure we're reconciled and they are aligned. I'm not clear that they're aligned, so I
Well-
want to make sure that they are. If there was I was processing a lot. There were a lot of slides, there were a lot of information. So I think as a team exercise, it will be important, building on what has been said before, to go through the bylaws and make sure that we're all.
Well, and I'm not sure if this is the sort of thing I defer to your judgment as to whether we need to wait or whether we should put on an upcoming agenda to discuss the bylaws. And in the meantime, each of us will read closely
Yeah.
the bylaws so we can include that conversation in the
Right.
meeting.
Yeah, that was the second part of my comment, that it would be great to review this over time, like, the end of the year. I personally would like every 6 months, because a year is too long. If there's any tweaking, we have the other half of the year to tweak things. But I think given the importance of this step, I don't think it's ever been, a retreat has ever been done. That I remember even in the last, years before me, I don't think there's ever, so this is a very first step for us to work more effectively and more efficiently. So I think it's important to build on that momentum. That's what I would say.
Thank you for organizing the retreat. We
Yeah.
appreciate it, and we'll keep paying attention to all of these process-related issues. Yeah.
Was there any feedback in the survey that is worth sharing out now?
I think the general gist was people felt like it was a good starting place and felt like there was still more to understand. But there weren't very specific next steps sort of like suggested. So if there's something that we want Mary Beth to come back and like facilitate a discussion around, it would be helpful to hear like what that might be, right?
Bylaws.
Yeah, what wasn't covered is the bylaws.
but you guys have the bylaws to read, so what would she add? That's the thing
Yeah,
I wanna know, I
Yeah, I
guess.
don't know.
I think that, my, if I might, I think it would be helpful for us to go through them and say, what is it we as a board need to do each year to fulfill these bylaws? And are we doing it? And
With the facilitator?
I don't think
we
it's
could do it
necessary
with
to
or
have-
without them, so,
I
if
think
she's
it's a
come,
matter-
can come back for free,
Cause I think.
that would be your call, I guess, or Jay's call, or.
Rob,
That's fine. I'm trying to understand so I know what.
I think this
make a
is a
list of to ask
conversation that's
her.
best had after we now read again the bylaws.
Yeah,
And get our thoughts as to whether we think they're deficient or need updating or revising in any way.
Because I do think if we do want her to come back, just out of courtesy, I would say probably we wouldn't want it to be past the summer.
Yeah.
Like we want her to, I would like to
Rob,
close out the offer. I don't think it's extended
Yeah.
forever.
I was gonna say, if we do sort of do a bylaw review session, it might be worth, if we do like an annual self-evaluation, kind of pairing it with that, because really there's a lot of overlap between the two. And that might be part of the evaluation is, okay, here's bylaw responsibility number 1, number 2, number 3. What have we done towards that this year? And that's a really good way. It's a good exercise to kind of say, okay, well, wait a minute, do we actually do anything relating to this bylaw responsibility? Or are there things that are not in the bylaws that we are nonetheless doing? And that might help to frame that.
well, I think that makes sense in the sense that we're looking to the bylaws to provide the standards by which we're measuring what are we supposed to do and are we doing it, hopefully. Yes,
Yeah,
Jay.
and I'm not proposing that we meet about changing the bylaws so much as looking at the bylaws to see if we are meeting our mission.
And that was one of the things that was in a linear way where Colleen was talking about what we couldn't do, but we were not necessarily prepared for that part of it.
Oh, Mary Beth, yes.
Yeah, well, there were two other,
oh, yeah, Cooley, you mean?
yes.
Oh, Mary Cooley.
Yeah, so she kind of put her hands together and said, well, you can't do this, this, and this. So we didn't have that in front of us to kind of look at. So I left with more of a thought like, where is that? And where, it was just really kind of, we weren't prepared.
I'll ask us all to, I'm looking at it right now, but to look at the bylaws before our next meeting, in particular Article 4, which describes the duties of the board. And maybe we can continue this conversation then
Right.
to come up with a plan as to what would be appropriate next steps. Earhart?
A role for Mary Beth may be helping us kind of facilitate a discussion about the interpretation of those roles, because I think we're in a moment of transition in some ways. We've, Kim joined us as director. We've
Yeah.
had a turnover in terms of our trustees, and the governance of our library has changed in
Good point.
fairly
I
recent
think
terms.
that's true. And when I, honestly, Kim, when we met a week or so ago, we were trying to figure out if there's some sort of clear description,
Yeah,
almost bullet points.
so I think it would be helpful
To have her at our next conversation in which after we review the bylaws. So then maybe we found something to have a follow-up with her. Maybe there might be another topic to add so that it's not only a bylaw conversation. We don't want to take advantage of her. We just want to take full advantage of her.
I don't think it's purely the bylaws. I think the bylaws are the starting point
It's
by
the
which we
duties of the board.
understand our role.
Yeah.
But when I wrote this in my feedback, is that we had this rich conversation at the retreat where we were trying to understand, okay, what is our role in terms of, like holding account, for what the library is doing to serve the community, but also then, supporting the library director and the staff in terms of the programs that they're already pursuing, right? And finding that balance, I think is a tough one, especially for the many of us who haven't had that much time here, and that we're in this transition moment. We're trying to navigate those different roles, and so having a facilitated discussion around interpreting the bylaws and figuring out how do other, boards of trustees find that right balance around accountability and assistance and support, I think is a rich one for us to spend some time on.
Yeah. I agree. I think of it in a more, like the bylaws are what you're charged with. And then anything else is kind of discussion or up for discussion of how we do it, right?
Yeah.
And typically when those questions come up, my process is always asking other directors about how their boards work on these things and encouraging some of the people in the conversation to talk to other boards. And then when I report back, it's not like something I've just made up as the way I'd like to do it. It's because this is the norm in the town. This is the norm across libraries in the state that have advisory boards. And the accountability structure is really around evaluating progress towards a strategic plan. And then, as you know, when there are specific issues with the director, you would bring that to the town manager, and that is your ability to affect whether I am here or not, right? Like, but outside of that, you don't evaluate staff.
Right.
Yeah, so it's
Yeah.
evaluating the plan, and that's the accountability.
Yeah, we talked about that.
Yeah,
But I think it's helpful for us to actually have some shared vision about that and think about
Yes.
the mechanisms
Yeah.
that looks like,
Yeah,
and I agree, we probably should be doing more outreach to other boards to try and determine, how other folks are handling those things.
Yeah.
Because I think with all of us, with some of us being so new, finding that right approach, I think is really important.
One last comment, if
Hannah?
I may. And there's another element I want us to consider, which is the community, right? We're always talking about open meeting laws and folks who are, public is invited, and we're doing it for them. It's in service of the community. So there is that layer. I'm sure you as trustees now are being approached. I know, can I rent it? Somebody wanted me to book the community program. I'm like, no, you go, and many other things, good and bad. So it's not, there is part of our role that is the voice of the community that elected us. And how do we reconcile that in what we need to do, right? So there is that layer that we need to also bring in. It's not only us.
Yeah.
Right? So.
That's right, but it's also with regard to some matters, it's an advisory role.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's what we need to Edgar's point, how do we balance, reconcile, and agree on how to make that work?
I mean, to a large extent, you can boil it down to we're trying to help Kim in the library, accomplish their goals.
Right.
Absolutely.
For the library.
Absolutely.
I think when we were sitting there and just as a group, maybe other people felt similar. It's like you have the understanding, but it's a different role because I almost looked at it like 70-30 in terms of what our responsibilities were, because the town has, as a trustee, this is probably the first time I've had not, like I said, the fiduciary as well as legal responsibility. So there's a segue off somewhere, but we don't even know where we're trying to figure out where that fork in the road is.
Okay,
That is metaphorically.
the bylaws are useful, like,
Yeah.
as I'm reading them now as a guide. We'll continue this
Right.
conversation, okay? Thank you.
No,
I didn't mean
thank
to cut you
everybody.
short.
No,
Okay.
I'm good.
Good, okay.
I'm just glad other people had ideas.
So can we move along to old business? Is that where we are on? Is there something else? Oh, there's an MBLC information designee?
yes, there's a
What is that about?
suggestion from, Kate, do you want to speak to that?
Oh, well, sure. And
Oh, yes, this is Casey.
when we were asked sort of in follow-up, I guess this was in follow-up to the retreat, was there anything that we could, that we don't want to suggest? And one thing, it did occur to me that the, Massachusetts Board of Library Commissioners is a great source of information and resources and has a variety of meetings and Zooms that help, especially newer library trustees, which I still consider myself to be, since I'm only beginning my second term. And so it occurred to me that one person perhaps on the board could be our kind of MBLC liaison, would keep tabs on what they're doing, and if they see something that they think our board might benefit from, to highlight it, to kind of, or to say, there's this email list where people discuss trustee issues, and here's how to connect, basically just kind of be the liaison and point out things that might be of use to our board.
Are you volunteering for that position?
I mean,
I will say, by the way, whoever takes the position doesn't mean that the rest of us can't also still be paying attention to what's going on with the MPLC, but.
right, of course.
But I will ask you if that's a. position that you're
Let's put it this way, I will not grab it myself. If there's somebody who's interested in doing that, if nobody is interested in doing it, I could probably do it. It's really just a matter of looking at what's going on with them.
And you'd be
passing on.
providing sort of an update, not unlike what we have for the Friends and the Foundation.
Yeah, so, I'm already doing the Art and Exhibitions Committee. I'm also the Foundation liaison, so I do have those two roles already. But, so I'm willing to do it. but-
Anna?
I just stepped out from my driver, so I'm kind of,
You-
I could unless there are other, I'm not, I'm okay. I can do it.
So.
No, okay. No, you're the second.
I'm not willing on taking on more. I'm good for now. It
Very
sounds
graciously
very
just
interesting.
take it.
So if that's something that you're interested in doing, I think we would all benefit from that. But again, not to suggest that we can't also
Yeah,
still
we
individually
can all do it.
be
yes,
taking
of course.
advantage of whatever
Yeah.
the MBLC has to offer, because there is stuff to learn from all of that.
So can
So-
I clarify?
Yes.
Because I think when it got brought up, I was thinking more of like someone paying attention to workshops that are coming up, things like that, and
Mhm.
sending it out to the board, not necessarily an agenda item, right? Because then we miss the
Yeah,
opportunity.
it doesn't
Okay.
have to be an
Okay.
agenda item,
Because I think
right?
some of those things are, you might miss it if we're
Right.
waiting, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Or
yeah.
this
But I
one
wanna
looks
make sure we're-
particularly, interesting for our board or something like, no, it doesn't have to be an agenda item, that's the.
Okay.
Okay.
I mean, it can be.
The
but-
only thing is that I think each individual can sign up for those
Mhm.
newsletters. So,
Yes,
so,
They can.
so I could just remind people because, I'm assuming everybody signed up. Right? For
I
the
think
listserv.
Get them.
Yeah.
I think you get them because when you
Somebody-
change over, they annually prompt the directors to update the trustee list and opt in the trustees to this
Yeah,
listserv.
yeah.
So that is how
So,
that.
so everybody's, so it would be more of a reminder or
Yeah,
highlighting
or-
some things.
Or what I really had in mind is I am signed up for them, so they come in my mailbox and
I get
often
them
I say,
too.
okay, MBLC, click.
I know.
I often don't even look at them, but I should. So this person would be the one to definitely look at them and
Yeah, okay.
tell us if there's something.
Celeste Bruno,
Yeah,
that's the name
yeah.
on the
Yeah,
emails.
and
Maura Didi is.
Nora Didi.
Yeah.
Maura Didi,
Yes.
they come.
Yep, I gotcha. Okay, and now to Kim's point, we won't wait because there may be something that is time sensitive.
But they do
Yeah.
send me in the news thing, and maybe, it would be also reading there in the news things to see if there's something in the news that's of particular import
Yep,
or interest to
that's-
us, because sometimes what we see, sometimes I read those, and sometimes they slide by, because it seems like they
Right.
come
Yeah.
pretty
Yep,
pretty
okay.
regularly. So that would be great.
Sounds good.
Thank you. You understand it's a 10-year term, Anna. No. So we'll limit it to 1 year. Okay,
Okay, well, next year's re-election time
okay.
for both of us.
Oh, fair enough. Okay. Old business. Space planning.
Yes. Do you want to?
I'll start.
We're 3 minutes
Yeah,
ahead of
have to
schedule,
get
which is
the-
good.
Fabulous. So thank you for everyone that took the survey that we sent out to help us kind of determine the trustees' perception of priorities. I sent out the results from that. And the readout there was meant to give you kind of like some sense of the ranking if you were to combine all of the things that folks had submitted. And then also show you the breakdown so that you can understand, like which ones actually got really high votes, like, made it their first priority. The last 4 were all write-ins, so that's why there's not a mean score connected to those. And those are the only 4 write-ins that we have. And so you'll see here then that the top 4 come down to being teen room, children's area renovation, Rosemary entrance / circ desk, and reference desk area and renovation. And then followed by the multipurpose room classroom, the tween room, the additional study rooms, which are the 1 to 4 person size, and then the larger meeting room, 8 to 10 person. And then there were 4 suggestions on well-designed art gallery, more individual adult study carrels, adult computer area in the quiet area, and the Wyeth room being redesigned. And then there was 1 comment that was submitted as well. And I encourage other folks to share comments and context during our discussion of these things. But I wanted to hand it over to Kim to kind of put some of this in perspective, and how we might think about these things, maybe combining some of these items as opposed to having them be separate based on what we could potentially do next.
Yeah, so we kind of ended up talking about things like, teen room was number 1, right? But then tween room was up there. And I think we wouldn't really do a teen room without addressing some space for tweens as well. So that would be kind of a combined project, is like the teen and tween area. And so that would then, keep us number 1 because the teen area is the part, the biggest chunk of that. But if we were asking UTL to design a teen room, I would be asking them to also have a space, as we saw in a lot of the plans that they already had put together. They're kind of, adjacent anyways. And I think that's appropriate. So I would see those 2 going together as 1 project. The children's area renovation is the second. That's just as is. That's a big project in and of itself. But then the Rosemary entrance and circ desk renovation was one of the items. And based on the way UTL had presented and discussed kind of moving up the circ desk and kind of redoing that area, one of the things that they had done with the space that was left over was a multi-purpose room. So I would see combining those into a project, right? Like that's a good chunk project. And so that would be the 3rd thing, based on the fact that it's, that Rosemary entrance was the 3rd thing. And then the reference area, I think that's a pretty big project as well. So that's a good standalone. The one thing that I would like to maybe include, and I think people would agree, hopefully, is that we should evaluate whether or not in that process, we could add a study room as part of that project. Because if we're like getting rid of the current reference desk, maybe there's room to add a little space there or something, right? So I'd like UTL to potentially think about that as part of that. And then the things that were submitted as the write-ins, those are all things that I felt like pretty good about us being able to actually just do some thinking about, like outside of working with UTL. Like we can always get more study carrels. We can, the art gallery would not be touched because we're not going with any of the options as presented, right? So that kind of just stays the same. And we could look at, computers in different areas, things like that. We can explore some of those things. So I felt like this list wasn't a totally big surprise. Like the ranking seemed right to me. It feels right to me. And there were a number of items that seemed like we should keep them on our list for future thinking, and see if we can explore them on our own anyways.
Yeah, I'll just note that the top 4 here actually are the exact same top 4 that you gave in your immediate needs.
Oh, that's funny.
When we discussed them at the last meeting.
And I think that could reflect that some people
We
were
listened.
voting to
They were paying
support,
attention.
to support what you wanted.
Yeah,
Well,
because-
it's funny because I thought the multi-purpose room was what I thought like, okay, teen room, multi-purpose room. And so multi-purpose room was lower, but I see it as in conjunction with this circ desk thing, so it just doesn't, it just is a project, right?
Because-
Like,
Yeah.
so it's funny.
I would just say,
I didn't
you'll
notice
see
that,
that there's
actually.
only 6 votes. I was the 7th in part because I didn't want to rank them, okay? I'm happy to defer to the judgment, and it seems like other people took the same approach, but simply listed as a priority what they understood might have been
Yeah, we were like,
Tim's desire.
what,
you know.
I looked at my notes, was like, yeah, I do agree with that,
That's so
okay.
funny. I had not put that together, actually. Because
I was gonna ask
looked at
you
the
for-
multi-purpose room, I was like, oh, that was really low, and I thought I made the case for that. It's funny.
Rob,
I was just gonna say, I agree with this ranking. I don't know if mine was, I think it was pretty close to what I had. But what is nice about this, in addition to aligning with the immediate needs that Kim's identified, is it also aligns with the pitch the town meeting heard when we were doing the space planning study.
Mhm.
And, eventually whatever comes out of this will have to go in front of FinCom and town meeting again. And to the extent that it's fairly consistent with that, especially in the teen room and the children's room, that will help because we can show that we've really been kind of sticking to that process, and the end product will be somewhat similar to what we were thinking of originally.
and we should be prepared with an explanation that describes why these changes are appropriate and reflect changing needs of the community to justify them.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think tonight what we wanted to do, right, like after there's discussion or if anyone wants to make a case for the order of things, right, is have the board vote just as a vote of confidence kind of for Earhart and I to bring back to PBBC and to UTO. And we have Hank with us as well tonight, and he can talk a little bit about the process going forward. Earhart and I had asked him some questions, and since he's here, I'll let him explain instead of me trying to explain for him. So just the next steps kind of where do we go from here?
Yes,
Yeah.
please.
Great to hear there's consensus. That's a very important step. And I think the PBBC always looks to the user group for that type of direction. It's very important. And we've actually gone through a similar process with the CAS, the Center at the Heights. They prioritized various projects. The architect is going to probably do some refinement of the scheme and then look at what those projects ballpark cost estimates. So a bit more detailed than their prior cost per square foot, but not too much because of feasibility. We don't get into all the level of detail about exactly which mechanical systems are modified, but the more broad brush issues. And I think we'll also be asking them to look closely at elements that can be reused. Like, for instance, perhaps the glass wall that exists up in the teen area, rather than dismantling that. It does function to help buffer sound in areas. And so they'll be looking at those types of issues, but then this provides them a framework. Say, normally what they do is cost estimating is they cost it out per it's the July of 2023. And then as they look at the schedule for the priorities, those costs would be escalated on a cost escalation rate with the cost estimator. We've seen quite a bit of variation in that recently, particularly during COVID. COVID spike seems to be coming down, but all of you read the newspaper, you can see what's happening in the general marketplace. And we do find that bringing prices down is a very sticky process. There is an incentive for manufacturers to reduce the cost. That's good. So in terms of the next steps, we will be going back to the election tomorrow, providing them with this information. We'll discuss their new schedule, adjusted schedule. Because they'll now restart their process. And then we'll figure out through Ken, if we can see when they'll have a draft.
Thank you, Hank.
Thank you.
Let me ask a question, and this was one of my comments, and maybe outside the scope, but one of the notes I made is that in connection with whatever works is being done, that we pay attention to what I called atmospheric elements, but the lighting, the carpets, the signage, that we can create something that feels a little bit brand new, and so I don't know how that fits in to the space planning, but to me, that's an important priority to go along with whatever work we do, to focus on that.
That's a great comment. I think it becomes an aspiration at feasibility stage. And perhaps some of the images that they've shared with you in other examples of their work in other libraries might represent that type of freshness. It could be
Yes.
built into the scheme. But that also sets the parameters for if and when they move into the schematic design. And every design project like this goes through the schematic design and design development and construction documents. So during schematic design, they do those kinds of refinements to the overall design.
Any other comments, Kate?
Yeah, so just so I understand, we're, based on the note at the bottom of the survey, it looks like, if I understand correctly, we're talking about potentially option one seems to be the best option for gradual incremental change with the priorities as Kim just spelled, the order of priorities Kim just spelled out. Is that?
That comment is from a submission. That was that was a comment from a trustee.
Oh, okay.
Yes, sorry, not,
All right, I thought that
Yeah.
was a recommendation from, okay.
oh,
so-
no.
All right, so that's not the case. So, so I guess my question is then, are we talking about primarily option one and doing it in an incremental way? Is that what we're
Not
discussing here?
really, like,
Not really.
it's like a yes and a no a little bit, right? Like, they're gonna start somewhere and then build around they're gonna focus on the 4 like priority projects.
Okay, but
Where
not
like option
necessarily
one has
just-
also things about like the large print area or things like that, which we can still effectively do on our own potentially by moving some stuff around.
Because
But
I
I'm
noticed-
not I don't think it's like one of the options.
It's sort of a
You know, like it's,
self-designed.
So new design.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I think what we'll be looking for is taking some of those ways that they were talking about these
Yeah.
elements in those 4 options,
Mhm.
right? And then saying, okay, so the top 4 things we want to aim for over the next couple of years, let's create a notional design around what that'll look like to put those things in place in those different parts. And then we'll cost estimate those individual projects, right? And then we'll see some kind of, view. And I assume this is where we're going. Ken can correct me if I'm wrong. The view we'll get is kind of like, if we were to complete these 4 projects, what would the floor plan look like?
Mhm. Okay, all right, so it's not.
right, like, because it's not all gonna happen at once, but they're gonna put it in one plan for
Yeah.
us to say like, this will be the end result if we go through all 4 things.
Yeah.
For now, are we looking for a motion to support your continued efforts, Earhart and Kim, on behalf of the library to continue those conversations with UTL and the MBLC along the lines of what we're discussing right now?
I think we're looking for kind of confirmation that the board is behind this set of priorities that we're defining in this meeting. And so that we bring that into our meeting with UTL and with our ongoing conversations with the rest of the PVDC to say that, this is what the library board of trustees says is important. And so we're prioritizing these in the remaining time we have on this.
Should we
subplan.
use that language to to be a motion? I mean, do we need a vote to support that? Because if we do,
I think it would be nice to have a vote, but I do want to restate because
Yes, we do want to
Yeah,
restate
Okay.
that.
Because, yeah.
Very good.
Yep.
Like-
So we are voting.
Okay.
I want to restate specifically what we mentioned grouping together
Yes,
as
yes,
projects
yeah.
because they make sense conceptually.
Yes.
So one being the teen and tween room or area.
Mhm.
The children's area renovation, Rosemary entrance / circ / multipurpose room. That being one, the third project. And then the fourth is the reference area with the potential for an additional study room or something being asked for.
So what our vote would be in support of that order, those projects in that
Not
order.
necessarily in that order.
Not in that
Those,
order?
I understood those are the collection of the priorities that you're going to be pursuing, or is it?
We want to
Specifically in
have
that
it,
order.
we do want to have it in specific order,
Okay.
so that we know, so that PPVC knows.
That's helpful. Okay.
Yes, so that's where really there's discussion around, like, if you feel like one of those four should be higher up on the list, that's for you all to,
Yeah, I think we should have that discussion. then.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think Hank spelled that out, that we were all together, and it makes, we were
Yeah.
being consistent as a group,
yes.
Means
So
a lot.
however it's voted
right?
should be actual, like, priority. One is priority one, right? Like, not just a list of here are the four things.
Can I ask before our discussion, are those that you recited in the order of priority that you would recommend?
You
That was
took
my
her
question.
The Vulcan mind melt.
Yes, so my one hesitation with the children's room is that it's gonna be very costly, I think. And so I don't know, but I think it's such a big need that I think it's worth like all the advocacy and all of that will be necessary. Where some of the others feel a little less like expensive and maybe easier to get through. But if, I think like, right, it's not locked in, right? Like if next year we're feeling like, oh, the temperature is such that the children's room is gonna not be voted to like be funded, right? Or like a renovation to it, but maybe something else that's a smaller cost would or whatever, we have that room to reevaluate.
Oh, yeah. I
Yeah,
think that
So-
that flexibility.
Yeah.
But having a priority now and then.
yes.
flexibility is
Right.
forward will be. funding.
So I would say, like, this reflects, I think, the order of need for us and the greatest impact to the building, right? Because sorry if I'm broken record, but I do think having a separate team area will make a big impact on the rest of the library where it feels like there are those quieter spaces are more easy to attain. And so that really just has this domino effect that I just feel like is going to be huge. And then the children's area, we just consistently hear comments about people taking their kids to other libraries around us. There have been a lot of children's renovations around us. And so there's high competition and we want to be the place that Needham residents come to and non-Needham residents come to. So I think it really does make sense in the order that it's in.
Question, follow
Anna?
up. Does the teen and tween room renovation, does that include the gaming area or is that a separate?
It might have a space for it in it, yeah.
Because I remember there was a specific gaming video or something.
Yeah, as like, they kind of had it as a separate room. I don't see it as a room necessarily, but I do see it as a programmatic element that we want to offer. The
Okay,
teams really do think of us as an academic space, but we want to change that perception for them that we're a community space for them. And if you have a gaming system, they'll come. So
Oh,
they'll use
yeah.
it, like,
Okay.
so I think even if they didn't identify that as like a priority for themselves, I guarantee it'll be used if we have something that's, maybe like a screen that comes down,
yeah.
something like that, like
Okay.
that kind of thing. So not a
Does the
separate room.
teen and tween area also have that sensory area? Is that
Oh.
something along with that?
No,
Because they-
actually, so my thinking on the sensory room is that that's something we could do immediately with the story time room that we have that exists.
Okay,
So I think when there's a children's area renovation, we just wouldn't combine those two rooms as discussed before. Or, I guess we could, right? The things that we'd be getting for a sensory room are probably very movable objects. So if if that space got conjoined, it would be fine. And it wouldn't be a waste to have the sensory items. We would just relocate them within the space. But I think there was a lot of thought to how to lay out the children's room outside of those two rooms. And that's the biggest impact for use of that space, really. And so if we keep those two rooms separate, or make it, maybe we tear down the wall between them and make it, you know, a wall like we have here, like a partition or something, where we could just have a sensory area. We could do that immediately. Like, and so I would see potentially retaining that when we do a children's renovation. And I think that would make sense programmatically, like the children's use of this room doesn't really affect our adult programming, right? Like, and so if they have story time in here, great. Like, it's not really, you know, and even joining those two rooms, is that gonna be big enough? Not really, like, so I just see the sensory room as something we could do, like, I don't wanna promise the next year, right? But like the Rotary Club is ready to go on it. I think hopefully the foundation would be interested in funding some items as well. The Friends, it's such a great opportunity and thing to fund. And it gives us the opportunity to try it out. And if no one's using it a couple of years from now, when we're doing the children's renovation, then maybe we adjust and we, you know, have some different tactile stuff, but not a room. Like, so
I know, I suspect there's gonna be.
I think there's use.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's a
There's
need.
a community need of
Yeah.
families that they will welcome that. And I'm
Yes.
wondering if that may be a selling point from a distinctive point from other libraries.
I think so. Yeah,
So
I do.
that-
And I think there's stuff that, I mean, we could just purchase, you know, with the funds that we have from the Friends and Elephant and state aid, that we could just do literally like next
Right.
month we'll be voting on the state aid. And I think I want to save some of it as an opportunity for our, you know, our supporting organizations to have their name on some things. But that money seems like it's going to be there. And I really want to make use of that, do it soon, so.
Yes, Kate.
So if we took a look at the very first item, teens and tweens combined, and my question in regards to that is, right now, of course, we all know it's up there above us, and it impacts the adult population, the people on the computers, and that's one of the issues we're trying to address. So I don't know if UPL will be sticking with this positioning, option one, and if so, or even if they go somewhere else with the teens and tweens, I would want us to make sure that the adult population, we have nothing here, none of these priorities address our rather varied adult needs, you know, from handicapped people, unemployed people, people who can't afford Wi-Fi, you know, a whole variety of adults with serious needs, or just lonely adults. So I wonder, I guess I would love us to, in some way, when we develop number one, to somehow embrace our adult, you know, be a little inclusive of our adult population and how, and to help them. So that would be an important priority to include with the teens and tweens change, the redesign. Okay.
Yeah, I think, I mean, one of the things with the teen and tween redesign, is my understanding, is we're trying to actually create that space that helps consolidate that user group, right? So that they have more space that they can claim as their own, which will allow for the other space to be used for all of those other users. But you're right in that there is nothing here that's speaking to new programming.
No, I'm not
for
talking about, I'm
adults.
talking about space.
Okay.
Specifically space. I mean, for example, there were some questions raised about the computers in this particular design being next to the young adult.
Yeah, but we won't be moving all of those things.
So yeah, that's a good point of clarity. So these things essentially exist where they are currently, which means, you know, like we're not moving the computers in order to do the teen space, because that doesn't, we're not moving that whole floor, right? We're just consolidating where the teens all take up space anyway, and maybe I would envision like getting rid of the teen stacks and having them line the walls. That would be the teen room and, that kind of thing.
Yeah, okay,
But
good.
really
I don't-
taking
We
up
don't
the-
actually know that, though.
Oh, yeah, no, so I'm
Yeah.
telling you, yeah.
Yes.
So the footprint would remain fairly similar to what it is, which then allows the adult use to be more comfortable.
Yeah.
I would say in the spaces that exist, right? And then there are, I would say the multipurpose room is a big one, so that does actually affect our adult population, and I think that's really where we're failing, like job seekers and things like that, is that we don't have a place to have laptops out. Here's how you do a search. Here's how you do this for a job or submit an online application. Like those are skills a lot of people struggle with, and we can't meet that need currently because our computers are all out in the open. We have like 2 plugs in here. We need that multi-purpose
Yeah.
space to do that. So it does actually add for that. And then I think the reference area specifically really does speak to the adult use of the space too. So,
Okay.
so I do think that's highly, that is a high priority, but it's not necessarily part of what we'd ask for the teen and tween space because that's taking up the area it's in.
Okay,
That kind of
so-
thing, that's how we're envisioning it.
Yeah, I see.
Yes,
I
so
didn't
like,
know
that's why I'm saying
where
like,
it
it's
might go
none of these
or-
options,
Yeah.
like none of those options are happening.
Right, so it's safe
Yeah.
to say we're jettisoning options
Yes.
before as they were,
Yes,
creating a new, Utah will take these priorities to create a new
Yes.
plan.
it'll be kind of a mix and match
Right,
of
you
some of
can
the things
reuse of
as
some of
they
the
put
stuff.
them,
Yeah,
but with a lot of other things staying the same.
Yeah.
yeah.
A la carte menu.
Yeah.
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 It might be
essentially.
phased.
If this
too, it's
back-
not just all at once, right?
Michael?
If this back wall here, are they gonna move the potentially above us are shelves? Will the shelves, like all the way back, something going to move?
For the teen room?
Yeah, because it's like, you've got the glass enclosure up here, and then you've got a window, and then you've got a couple of tables, I think there are 4 tables, and then you've got stacks.
Yeah. So those
So,
are the teen stacks.
right,
So that's what I was mentioning is that we would probably get rid of a lot of those.
Okay.
Because we'd be building a wall around that kind of
right, so you're
area.
moving it back.
And
a
then the
bit.
shelving would line the walls of
Right.
that room.
Right.
And like we talked about before, the walls might only go up 8 feet or something and then be glass, or we
Right.
don't know, right? Like
Right.
that's for UTL to
Yeah.
work on
Right.
after getting those priorities. And part of retaining the glass wall, like Hank mentioned,
Right.
might be to separate some of the noisier elements of that space.
Noise in the library?
Yeah,
No way.
yeah.
No
So like if
way.
we were gonna add a video gaming system, even if it was only in use some of the time, it would probably go in that space.
Yeah,
Just to make it even more of a buffer, right, for the noise and things,
Right.
so.
I always looked at the, having the teen and tween thing be kind of like as a dry run, so you get to see how all of it comes together. And then from there you build out and just see what the next priorities are. It's kind of nice that
Yeah.
pretty much everybody took the first one that way.
Cause I mean, even the quiet space that we have along the second floor right now, that would be much more usable if the teens weren't sitting right there.
Right.
like, You know, during those hours of the day. So it's facilitating easier use and less friction
Right.
throughout the building.
Right. I would
Teens are
also,
in it, because we want to encourage teens to be here,
Right.
like, we want it to be a welcoming place for them. And I think having this space that they can sort of own over time and have like a teen advisory board to help, determine programming and things like that, like, is a very effective way to build that community use
Right.
of the space from the teens. That's been very successful at other libraries.
and my thing is for the trustees is make sure you come, it's kind of late now because school is out on Thursday. But I would say, please come in and see how this place operates from 5 o'clock to 9 to
Yeah.
get an understanding, because it's really important to see what is, thought and then what is reality.
Yeah.
And then you'll have a different idea of, maybe we should look at it this way.
I've made the same observation in the past, the pleasure from walking around the library when it's really in use and there's so many kids around. Yeah,
Shall I make a motion?
please.
Yes.
Thank you.
That's why we love you.
may I move to approve or support
Yes.
the options in the following order? And please correct me if I'm not stating this as we've discussed it. First being the teen room. The second,
Teen and tween.
and tween room,
Teen
and tween,
tween area.
yes, teen tween area. The second being the children's area. The third being Rosemary entrance circulation / multipurpose. And the fourth being reference desk and area.
Study room.
And
Yeah,
so,
we would ask, we would ask that too.
Anybody second that motion?
Second,
Second.
Oh, gotcha.
my name on the space plan.
She's been exercising. Uh,
Back up.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Another unanimous motion passed.
Okay, great.
Good job, good
It'll
job.
be fun to bring this back to you. Teal,
Thank you,
tomorrow.
Hank, again, for all of your,
Thank you.
your
Thank you,
work
Hank.
for us. Very much appreciated.
I guess we'll have to put some of these up as reference steps,
Yes,
so others can see.
yes. Once we have our. Um,
Okay, next on our agenda, update on fiscal year 24 priorities.
Yes, so I didn't want to leave this off of the agenda, but I don't, you gave me a ranked kind of list of priorities for our strategic plan for the next fiscal year. I'm still in the process of reviewing those to come up with the plan for the action items, so I'll bring that to the July meeting. So I just want to kind of update you on that progress.
Thank you. A climate action plan outreach update.
sure, I can give that quickly. Kim and I attended the Climate Action Planning Committee Advisory Group Committee,
They belong.
which is
There used to be
actually.
an abbreviation name for
Hank
that.
was there as well.
Yeah, yeah.
It was a very nice
Couple.
session where basically we were discussing various goals. Kim, which group were you on?
Governance.
Governance, so relevant.
Yeah.
I was on transportation, which I care about, although it's, I guess, tangentially related to the library. But ultimately, there was a lot of brainstorming on ways to accomplish the goals that the Climate Action Planning Committee is setting out and how to translate those into actionable items that the community can get behind. It's a massive uphill climb. It's going to take very, very expensive, very significant changes for the town to become carbon neutral by 2050. And probably not a lot of them are directly involving the library, but a lot of them are tangentially involving, like having more people switch over to EVs. In the future, maybe there's a potential to have some EV charging areas.
Yeah.
Having more visible and larger bicycle parking spots. Encouraging the town to build bike lanes that access the library. We're on a very wide stretch of roadway between Needham Center and Needham Junction with no bike lanes. So there are a lot of things that are still in the very conceptual phase right now, but the idea behind this group was that everybody's going to kind of go back to their respective constituencies and eventually advocate for this plan that comes
Who
out.
are the other members of the group?
Oh, there were like 40
Many.
people
Many.
in the room. So there
All
were like
led different towns.
some different town, like head of DPW, head of like finance and stuff for DPW. She's a very long title, but I don't remember. Hank
School
Capp,
committee.
school committee was there. Yeah. Representatives from all over, but then also just residents were there. That I don't think had any special association to a board or committee or anything.
Active citizens.
Public health, board of public health, council on aging had someone, just a lot of people in there. And so there were about 5 or 6 tables, kind of areas that they were looking to get information about and brainstorming about happening. And the others, I don't remember exactly what they were, but transportation, governance, and then something else. And so we'll meet 3 times total.
Right. And what I was told at least was that some of the feedback that we're getting, I think part of it is we're just kind of, I don't want to say just kind of cheerleaders for the plan, but we're providing feedback on what we might think is priorities within some of the areas. And then once the plan actually comes out and is finalized, we'll try to kind of push for it with our respective constituencies. So I'll report back as that continues to evolve. But it's something where if the town takes this seriously, and hopefully they will, at all levels, it would be some massive changes.
Thank you both for attending. And reporting.
Thank you. Equity and inclusion resolution, is there anything to discuss? Agenda.
Quick update, there was a race amity event this past Sunday. It was well attended, many elected officials were there. Another event is coming up this Sunday, Father's Day, is the First Parish Unitarian Universalist has a Pride Rally March at 2 p.m. That is, and the select board today on their agenda had 2 resolutions on Pride Month and Juneteenth. So that's it.
Thank you. Okay, the Library Art and Exhibits Committee report.
Well, at our last meeting, we voted in favor of a lineup through the end of 2023, which is still in place, no changes. And last night we had a fabulous event here last night, which was quite unique. And several of us were there. And it was a melding of science and art. We had our local bioengineer, Sandra Scheffelbein, and her artist, who's really very creative artist, give a presentation on bones. It sounds like it wouldn't be that fascinating, except she had this whole parade of young PhD students who each gave their piece. It was a very lively, well-attended discussion. So it was great fun. And moving forward with the committee, we're going to have our next meeting. We're working on setting up a date. A priority under our equity and inclusion resolution is to diversify our art shows, more than we have. So that's something we're working on. Yep.
Thank you. Is there a MacGyver series update? I don't know. Yes, Rob?
There's not.
Okay.
I will be getting in touch with Galen, and hi, Galen, I see you on Zoom. I will be getting in touch in the near future to help coordinate that, and Anna has provided some very helpful background on the planning process for that.
Thank you. Thank you, Rob. Friends of the library, there was the book sale last weekend. It's always a big event for the Friends. I don't know if I was out of town, unfortunately. I don't know if any of you had
Yeah, well promoted, well promoted.
good.
It was a
I think the Friends are
video.
just coming down from the afterglow of the Doris Kearns Goodwin event, and there was a guest speaker, I think just this past weekend, who spoke about the Great Boston Fire, which you may or may not remember from the 1800s. And she had a slideshow, and it was a good crowd, not a sold out crowd, but a good crowd. I don't think I have anything else to report for the Friends. Joan, is there anything to say about the Library Foundation?
Well, hi, I'm pleased to announce that we have a new board member, Matt Robinson from Meetint Cable, and he's an educator. So
Good,
we're
nice.
very happy about that. We are in the process, it's going to be a slow process for a website revision. And we have.
Are you doing, you're not doing that in
No.
connection with the library website the same way
No,
that
it's
the
just
Friends do?
ours, just ours, just needs to be updated.
Okay,
So we have some people working on that, but we have to wait because we're waiting for the Field Steels to tell us when they can come in for just a little presentation and really mostly photos that we need, so that we can post those on our website. So it's all going to take a little time. Kay had asked me to just review the grants that we've had this spring. It was a little over 3,000 in grants. there was a request for a new desk that got tabled because the foundation wasn't sure if that was part of what we should be spending money on. So I'm not sure what's going to happen with that, but it was tabled. And then in the fall, we had a lot of grants. This past fall, it was over 17,000. And a year ago, in the spring, May 2022, it was over 29,000 in grants, and that's when a lot of the furnishings upstairs
Right.
were. And $800 in museum passes.
That's good.
So that's it, the Concord Museum, the Danforth Museum. New is the Tower Hill Botanic Gardens. I think that's gonna be, that will get a lot of use. And the Go Pass, which I had to look up because I wasn't familiar with, but it's historic homes and parks and things from all over the state.
Nice, great.
So,
Do they I hope they sufficiently publicize all of the museum and other passes that are available. I know they have things posted around the takeout desk.
Yeah.
yes.
The staff does a good job with that down
Yeah.
there. They're really
Yeah,
good.
I think so. I think
That's
people are
great.
aware.
Good.
Yes. And our endowment took a little dip. But we're at a little over about 1,694,000. A little above that. So it's still good.
Great.
Yeah.
Are there any other comments by trustees or anybody else? Any final comments? If not, we have a motion, please, to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Okay, Kay makes the motion.
Second.
Rob seconds the motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Wonderful. We end on a unanimous note again. Good night, everybody.
Nicely done.
Thank you to our visitors.